Okay, so I'm going to get straight to the point with this video. In this video, we're going to be talking about how our thoughts create our reality. Now, this is no new age bullshit. This is no like law of attraction shit, although we're going to bring the law of attraction into this because I think the law of attraction is something interesting and something worth studying at least before we just completely discredit it as like whimsical bullshit. But the point of this video is to actually illustrate and elucidate the fact that our thoughts create our reality, which they do on a very scientific basis. So on this little piece of paper that I have with me right now, as I showed you guys, so we have reality, perception, thought, experience, okay? So we're going to break those down one by one and explain very clearly and very scientifically and empirically how reality is created by our thoughts. So reality is something that people see as objective, people see it as static, it's almost immovable. It is the reality. Like the grass is green, the sky is blue, you know, this table is solid, whatever. But reality only comes into our experience of reality through our perception. Quantum physics has found that there's a very interesting relationship between the observer and what is observed, and that the observer can actually change what is being observed. Like, for example, there's many things I could comment about in regards to this table. First of all, I could say it is brown, then I could say it is solid, then I could say it has 4 legs and 2 bits that come open like that. Those are different things about the table, but if I was to focus on only one point of that table, it would only make that one point clear. It wouldn't necessarily make all the other points clear. And so you need to focus on them each singularly in order to create the whole picture of what this thing is, of its properties, of its composition. So you have to break things down. But things can only be broken down after they have been perceived. And so my perception has to shift. Like my perception has to shift from the fact that I'm looking at this table being brown to the fact that I'm looking at how many legs it has, to the fact that I'm looking at what state it is in, the fact that it is solid, you know? So you have to move your perception through certain levels of analysis in order to get the whole picture of things, just like we do in life. So if reality is sort of filtered in this way by our perception, then you can understand how our thoughts about reality and reality itself and how we experience it have a very close and very closely interlinked relationship. What you think about reality tends to be what you experience of reality. If you think the world is a harsh and terrible place, you will probably experience that. But if you think the world is loving, if you think the world is beautiful, if you think the world is abundant, you will probably experience that. And that is because, I've lost my piece of paper, but let me quickly grab that. But that is because we tend to get what we focus on. And like I said, things can be perceived in a near limitless amount of ways. And so when we're only perceiving things in a certain way, we're only getting that version of reality. That's the version of reality we are experiencing, and we are experiencing it through our thoughts, through the thoughts that we are having about what we are perceiving. And so the next bit is, so we've got our self, right? And then we have our perception of self, which comes through thought, like our thoughts about ourselves. And that goes into belief, right? Now, belief is a subconscious thing. Belief is something that is not conscious, it's something that has been reaffirmed enough to the point where it has sank down into the subconscious, where it's something we no longer need to think about, we just know. It's become a belief rather than an assumption. And that's through repetition that gets solidified as such. So your subconscious experience of yourself, i.e. your beliefs about yourself, your conception of yourself, tends to rule your life. Because, for example, if I believe that I am fundamentally unattractive and there's nothing that I can do about that fact, and that's the experience that I'm having of myself, for example, those are the thoughts that I'm having about myself, I'm continually engaging with that perception, with those kind of thoughts, to the point where they become solidified into a belief, then that's going to infect my action in all realms of life. In all areas of my life, that's going to seep through me into whatever I'm doing. Like maybe I'm going to be less confident, or I'm going to be more shy, or I'm going to be more laid back, I'm going to be less expressive, whatever form it takes, it will express itself. And so this is why I have the quote here by Carl Jung: the unconscious rules your life until you make it conscious. Because when you can start to realize, okay, I have some subconscious beliefs that are determining the way that I experience reality, you can start to assess those beliefs and whether or not they are actually grounded in reality itself, or whether they are simply a perception. So our conscious thought, reiterated for long enough and consistently enough, will turn into a belief. Now, our belief is a subconscious program. That is how it acts in ourselves. And so the result will be, it will become a habit. And habits, they become who we are. We are what we repeat. Therefore, excellence is a habit, not an action. And so when you tend to experience reality in a certain way, you need to look at your own subconscious assumptions, beliefs, and premises that are leading you to experience this reality. Because maybe if you were to shift your perspective, you would be able to experience the very same reality in a very different way. All I'm trying to say is that our thoughts have a very powerful effect on how we tend to experience reality. And so we need to be very careful with, firstly, the kind of thoughts that we continually entertain and we let seep into our subconscious, but we also need to be careful about getting too fixed in a certain perspective, in a certain way of perception, because there are always new perspectives we can look from. There are always new interpretations that we can learn from, new insights. And we don't learn anything if we stay in our own narrow perspective. We have to open ourselves up to new perspectives in order to learn anything. And so you have to humble yourself before your experience of reality and say, is there anything I am doing to contribute to this reality that I seem to be experiencing without my willing of it? Because you will find that there definitely is some power you have in what you are experiencing, and it comes in how you are perceiving it and how you are thinking about it. Marcus Aurelius famously said, remove the judgment that you have been harmed, and you remove the harm. Remove the feeling that you have been harmed, and the harm disappears. It's all about judgment, and it's all about perspective, and those are achieved by our thoughts. So we need to be very careful to what thoughts we continually pay attention to and what thoughts we engage with, but also the perspective we take on things. Because the perspective we take on things will tend to be the experience we personally have for them in our life. Like, for example, if I see the fact that I got an injury in martial arts and I had to have surgery as a negative thing, then I'm probably going to see it as something that has negatively impacted my life. I'm probably going to see it as a vulnerability, as a burden, as a setback. Whereas if I see it as this is an occurrence, and an occurrence that I can make anything that I choose to make from, then I can actually look at my own power, look at what I've done to contribute to the situation, but also, more importantly, what I can do to change the situation and what I can learn from it. It's all about perspective. And so I hope that in today's video, not too well put together, it's not too scientific. I haven't got a whole bunch of notes with me, so I can't reel off all these points for you. But I tried to make it as scientific as possible because I think that's what makes it believable to people. And so I hope I was able to open your mind. I hope I was able to potentially make you aware of how your thoughts affect your reality and create your reality. If you enjoyed this video, make sure that you like and subscribe and share this with somebody you might think need to hear this message. And yeah, take care.